Democratic candidate for governor John Gregg has the person he wants to lead Indiana schools for the next 4 years. Gregg has endorsed Glenda Ritz for state superintendent of public schools. Ritz says Republican incumbent Tony Bennett spends too much time on standardized testing, which doesn't help students learn to think. And she said it's time for state government and educators to work together.
In spite of spending over half of our tax dollars on education, we trail 26 states in preparing our students for the global economy. It is time for a change.
And joining us now on Indianapolis This Week is the Democratic candidate for Superintendent for Public Instruction, Glenda Ritz. Ritz is a two-time Teacher of the Year award winner at 2 different schools and has served as the president of Washington Township Education Association for 15 years. Glenda Ritz, thank you very much for being here.
And thank you for inviting me, Todd. Thanks.
Pleasure to have you. Superintendent Bennett, you're critical of him for several reasons, but one is he spends too much time testing, not enough time allowing teachers to teach.
Correct. At the end of every spring, we take the I-STEP test, but prior to that test, because of the high stakes of the testing, districts in all over the state are having testing periodically throughout the entire school year. So we're actually testing students, you know, on a very, very regular basis. And because of that, there's less time for instruction.
Well, how are you to measure then what they accomplish, or maybe in some cases what they don't accomplish if you don't do the testing?
Well, we don't need to do the testing as much as we're doing it now. There are better ways to do the assessment pieces. Right now, the I-STEP test is what you call an achievement test. It's a pass or fail. Educators would prefer a testing system similar to like a real growth model, where you really know where students are on a continuum. For example, reading. In reading, you would like to know in a 4th grade classroom that you have 6th grade readers, 7th grade readers, 2nd grade readers, so you could provide the proper resources and materials and have a lot of time for instruction to be able to improve those levels or have the students extend on their own levels. Right now, it's a pass-fail approach.
Is a lot of this teachers saying that these tests are too critical then of them if the students don't do well and they feel there's too much pressure on them?
Well, I think there's too much pressure on the whole system. Everything's tied together now. The high stakes of the I-STEP is tied to several pieces, as you just pointed out. It's tied to school accountability, it's tied to teacher evaluation, it's tied to students' graduation, and the stakes are so high that now everybody feels they have to do even more testing throughout the school year, which takes time away from instruction.
Speaking of I-STEP, the test results were released recently. Superintendent Bennett came out with those. They went up 1% over last year, an improvement that he says we should all be very happy about. You don't see it quite that way.
No, I don't. Actually, that's a very minimal improvement statewide, and the reason that I feel that that's indicative of what's happening is because we do have less time on instruction. We are spending so much time doing assessments that there's not enough, we've taken away days and days and days of time for instruction, and it doesn't surprise me that there was just a little bit of growth.
But these are all-time highs in math and reading, and it's an 8% improvement over 3 years ago. So it would seem we are heading in the right direction and that things are getting better. You just don't think it's fast enough.
Well, teachers are doing their jobs, certainly. They continue to do their jobs all the time despite the cuts that have happened and the reduction of teachers being hired in the schools. But as a result, we could have been doing much better if everything had been in place and proper instructional time and support for the individual school systems for what we needed to do. Right now, we are literally teaching to the test at the absence of some good curriculum and vocational training for happening in the high schools. We are not preparing students to leave high school to be in the workplace because of the high stakes testing.
There's some schools doing really well, some school districts not doing so well. Indiana IPS, one of those. In fact, less than half of the students passed math and reading this time around. What would you plan to do if you get this office for school districts like that?
Just had a conversation about that, actually, and many of our young children that we get into school in 1st grade, many of them do not come with kindergarten and they do not come with any preschool experience. And so when they enter first grade, they really are a year or two behind when it comes to literacy instruction. And so we have to spend our time trying to catch those students up, so to speak. The state of Indiana is one of a handful of states in the United States that does not mandate kindergarten, nor do we have any preschool education component that goes with that.
It takes a lot of money.
It does take some money, but I think it's a priority that we need to be addressing. And also we need some really strong reading components to go with that at every grade level. Reading seems to be an emphasis just to teach students to read, but reading happens all the way through schooling. Reading and the level of your reading, you know, helps you to be productive in the workforce later on.
Any other shortcomings with education here in the state that you would like to make a priority if you take office in January?
I'd like to see a lot more local control with school districts on how they want to address the challenges in their schools. I think the Department of Education should be supporting the local schools and communities in how they want to improve their schools. They should have a lot more say. We should be working with businesses to get the courses in place for what we need for vocational training. We need to be sure we have safe and students are safe and respected at school. We need to have training programs for educators and students regarding the bullying. And then, you know, going back to the testing piece just a little bit, the barrier for many students graduating is Algebra 1. It's a high-stakes test. We didn't used to have a gateway to getting a diploma. Algebra 1 is needed for college, but it is not needed as a course for going into other vocational pieces. We need to be offering math courses that are designed to help students go into other vocational areas, and so they can proudly graduate from high school to go into career and tech ed or to go into other vocational areas.
You'll make some students very happy if you want to get rid of that Algebra 1, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm sure I would.
All right, Glenda Ritz, Democratic candidate for State School Superintendent, thank you very much for coming in today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.